Chapter 18 Polls and Polls. Naturally, I was not the only person running for President of the United States. President George White was hoping to be reelected for a second term, of course. He's a Republican from Ohio, an older guy with big jowly cheeks that wiggle when he talks. President White was an okay president, I guess. He hadn't gotten America into any wars, or at least any world wars, during his 4 years in office. A lot of people don't like him, though. Before he was elected, he had promised he was going to lower taxes, balance the budget, and solve all of America's problems. But 3 years into his presidency, we seem to have all the same problems and a few new ones, too. The Democrats seemed to be against everything President White did simply because he was a Republican. Republicans were always criticizing him because they said he wasn't Republican enough, whatever that meant. Sometimes I think people didn't like President White simply because he was the president and they weren't. To make things worse for the president, in January, during a ceremony on the White House lawn, his dog went to the bathroom on the ambassador from New Zealand. It was pretty hilarious, and the video of it got something like 10 million videos on YouTube. Some commentators said the president can't be expected to manage the country when he can't even manage his own dog. Anyway, his approval rating went way down after that incident. The Democratic challenger was Senator Herbert Dunn of West Virginia. You'd recognize him right away because his hair looks like it was made of styrofoam and surgically fused to his head. Lane and I always say we must comb his hair with a blowtorch. Senator Dunn was always attacking President White, saying his policies were leading to the decline and fall of civilization and stuff like that. He was angry all the time, a real downer. I couldn't believe anyone would ever vote for him, but he'd been a senator for about 100 years, so people must like him. In West Virginia, anyway. To be perfectly honest, I thought President White and Senator Dunn were a couple of windbags. In February, USA Today took a poll of the American people, and this was the result. President White, 53%. Senator Dunn, 41%. Judson Moon, 1%. Other, 3%. 1% of the vote? I complained to Mrs. Sayers. That's pathetic. We're doing even worse than other. Honey, she said, do you realize 100 million people are going to vote on November 7th? You get 1% of that, and you got a million votes. A million grown-ups who would vote for you, a snot-nosed 12-year-old kid, to the President of the United States. Think about that, child. Meanwhile, the money kept pouring in from kids all over America. Poor Gus hurt his back lugging all those sacks to my house every day. In March, he turned in his resignation to the post office. Somebody told me Gus had decided to enter politics himself. I came home from school one day, and there were a dozen or so kids helping out with all the mail, working like little gerbils. Lane called them his Moonies. How'd you get them to do this? I asked Lane. I promised them you would establish a minimum weekly allowance for kids, he replied. I can't do that. That's their parents' decision. It's just a campaign promise, Moon, he said, as if I was dumb. You don't have to actually do it. By April, Lane said he had enough money to buy some airtime and do TV commercials. This was my favorite part about running for president. I'm a natural ham, and it was really cool to shoot the commercials and watch them on TV. Mrs. Sayers and I made a whole bunch of goofy commercials together, but the one I liked best I did by myself. It was shot at the local high school football field. I started at the 1 yard line to show that I had 1% of the vote so far. As I talked, I walked upfield with a football in my arm. Lane and I made up this script. Hi, my name is Mood Judson, and I'm running for president. I know a lot of you out there think it's crazy. You're saying a 12-year-old kid knows nothing about politics. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't know anything. The script called for me to pause for a moment at the 10-yard line while some guy tried to tackle me. I threw him a hip fake and he flew by me. Then I continued. I don't know how to raise your taxes or waste it on things America doesn't need. I don't know how to make secret deals with nutty foreign dictators. I don't know how to run or ruin our environment. I don't know how to pander to special interest groups. I don't know how to get us into a war. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I paused at the 20-yard line to evade another tackle. Then came the big finish. Look, I'm just a kid. I don't know anything. That's why you should vote for me on November 7th. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to run. At that point, a bunch of grown ups start chasing me down the field. Politician types, lawyers holding briefcases, ex hippies, criminals with knives, housewives, soldiers, terrorists. I break tackles left and right and fake them all out of their shoes. Finally, I high step over the goal line and spike the ball. As I was doing my dance in the end zone, a voiceover went, "Vote for Moon. He doesn't know anything." I just wanted to get a few laughs, but the commercial must have struck a nerve with the American people because the day after it aired, I shot up to 10% in the polls. Some of that gain was at the expense of President White, whose dog happened to bite a little boy during a White House tour. The poor kid had to get stitches in his leg. It was all over the news. I think a lot of people felt so bad about the boy that they switched their votes from White to me. I felt sorry for the president. It wasn't his fault that his dog was out of control. He was in a tough spot. If he got rid of the dog, people would say he was only doing it to win the election. But that was his problem. We were 6 months away from Election Day, and the polls showed us at President White, 43%, Senator Dunn, 43%, Judson Moon, 10%, other, 4%. At least I was beating other.